Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. It's your girl Drea Siobhan, aka Intuitive Mama. And today's video, I'm going to be talking about growing up in the ghetto, streets of Baltimore, crime-stricken areas. I did part one, and towards the end of part one, I realized that this was going to have to be a two-part video. Actually, it might be a three-part series. Part one, I ended because I was hungry, child. I didn't eat, and I realized that my video was getting longer and longer. So here we are at part two. Part one, I talked about growing up in the ghetto, how drugs hit my community really hard, the crack epidemic, growing up in the 80s. I think I kind of left off with me kind of being around middle school age. I went to middle school in the 90s, so we can get into that in this video. So yeah, let's get into it. So in the 90s, I started going to middle school. I don't remember the year, but it was in the early part of the 90s. I was living in West Baltimore, and I was going to Harlem Park Middle School. And that middle school was known for, you know, having crime, being bad. I think before I started going there, it was a young man who I think was shot, like in the cafeteria of the school, being robbed or something like that for his 8-ball jacket. I think that's what the story was. In the 90s, 8-ball jackets were really big, the leather jackets, and sadly, you know, kids were being robbed for them or whatever. So, you know, going there, I heard, you know, those stories and stuff, but I still was excited about going to middle school. I was excited about starting a new school and meeting new friends. Some of my friends from elementary school were also going to Harlem Park as well. When you leave your elementary school, depending on where you live, like, you know, you go to your zone school. So a lot of us lived in different zones and stuff, so my zone sent me to Harlem Park or whatever. So I get to middle school, and it was a big difference from elementary school. Like I said, like, drugs really hit our community really hard. So it was just a lot of neglect. At that point in time, a lot of kids had been removed from their parents because their parents was on drugs. So now they were being raised by their grandparents or other family members. So the first day of middle school was cool. I remember kind of seeing some friends from elementary school and talking to some people that I had just met. But as time went on, I started to realize that middle school was going to be rough. I'm just going to say it, you know, middle school used to stink, y'all. It used to stink because it was a lot of neglect. At this age, for most kids, around 12, 13 years old, you're going through puberty, so you know your personal hygiene needs a little bit more attended to, and you need personal hygiene products such as deodorant, soap. You know, girls are usually starting their menstrual cycle, so you need sanitary napkins and stuff. And it's really sad because a lot of the kids there didn't have these things because they didn't have a parent in the home, didn't have money, or they were being raised by like an older family member, like I said, a grandparent, or somebody that just didn't have it to give. You know, it was just a lot going on. A lot of kids didn't have new school clothes. A lot of kids' hair wasn't done. Boys was coming to school without haircuts. It was just a lot. And I remember middle school classrooms being really hostile. Like, we were always real amped up, full of energy and aggression. I would say, like, maybe like this was probably like my first week into high school. I had just met this girl. Me and her became fast friends, and her and this boy, I mean, we're like 12 years old. I guess that would be considered like, you know, kiddie flirting or whatever. They was kind of like going back and forth. I could tell they was liking each other. And I remember, like, quickly they kind of got into dispute. They were going back and forth, and I remember her saying something like, well, your mother, or whatever. So when she said your mother to the dude, I remember he got up like so fast and just jacked my friend up. Like, I think he hit her. You know, it was just a mess. The teacher tried to like jump in, and I was kind of trying to like get in between them and stuff. And his reaction just shocked the crap out of me, because I remember, you know, in elementary school, or just being a young girl, being told, you know, boys don't hit girls, you know, and girls, you don't hit boys. You know, it was kind of just like this thing that you grew up knowing. So for me to see him lunge at a female like that, it was crazy. But as time went on, and hopefully I can get into this later, that type of notion of boys not hitting girls and girls not hitting boys kind of went away. A lot of families was broken. A lot of single mothers was raising their sons to be like, if somebody hits you, I don't care if it's a male or a female, you hit them back. So once that type of mindset came in, child, it really just started getting off the hook. So, you know, moving forward, you know, that happened. That was pretty crazy. And I, you know, realized how much things started to change. There's like this big, it's not a stigma, but I feel like it's something that people always talk about. How can people in the hood, in the ghetto, sell drugs knowing what drugs have done to their communities, right? How you see your family members on drugs, and you see how drugs rip through the community. How can you partake in that and become a drug dealer? And I'm going to try to explain a little bit about that through my lens and what I seen growing up in the hood. And this is in middle school. So like I said, in middle school was a lot of neglect. A lot of the boys didn't have haircuts. They didn't have clean clothes. And who knows what they was dealing with at home. It also was like a lot of domestic violence. A lot of us seeing our mothers get beat up. You know, you seen your mother on drugs, doing strange things for drugs, a little bit of change, or whatever you want to call it. And I remember lunchtime was different. In elementary school, kids used to eat lunch, but I feel like some kids would opt out because they didn't have to. They would go home and get spoiled. Somebody would make them a sandwich or whatever they wanted. But I feel like in middle school, people was tearing their lunch up. Like, kids were really, really hungry. Like, it was like poverty had hit like an all-time, you know, low. And I feel like people would be like, oh, well, you know, people in the hood, they was getting food stamps. Y'all, a lot of people would get food stamps. They would sell their food stamps. They would not put food in their home, in their refrigerator for their children. So kids was coming to school hungry. Now, when I would walk home from school, I would see, you know, all the drug dealers and stuff. Like I said, I would have my older cousins out there. And, you know, it just looked like a glamorous life. You know, these guys was getting money. At this point in time, it wasn't how it is today. These guys was getting money. They was driving nice cars, taking care of their girlfriends, taking care of people in the hood, families. And I remember, you know, my walks to school and seeing them. And then I started to see some of the boys from my middle school also standing on the corner. Now, I would look and be like, oh, like, that's such and such. Like, what is he doing out here? And then I quickly realized, you know, I would see them run to cars for, you know, the main dude in charge. And I'm like, okay, like, you know, that's my friend. He's in my class. We're about the same age, and he's out here selling drugs. I mean, it's a hard thing to see, but it's like, what do you say? You know, what do you say to your friend, right? Like, you know that this boy is coming to school. People were sitting up here cracking on him, making jokes about him, talking about him not having clean shoes on and clean clothes, not having a haircut. You see him in the cafeteria damn near starving, you know, trying to keep it cool, and he tearing his food up on the side because he don't want nobody to joke him because he's so damn hungry. He don't want nobody to see that he's finishing his whole lunch, you know. And you see him out on the corner, and he's out on the corner because he needs money. Now, I feel like for somebody on the outside looking, and of course you would say, like, how are you going to sell drugs back to your community? Like, you see your mother on drugs. That notion completely goes out of the window when somebody's in survival mode. And to make it even worse, you're a child. So you don't really have any decision-making skills. You got somebody coming up to you, that's a little bit older than you. They got a nice car, they got nice clothes, they got food in their refrigerator, they got more money than you can imagine, and they offer you a position, a job, and you're in middle school. And at this point in time, it's kids that's possibly out there not only selling, you know, drugs to get money so they can take care of themselves, but now their family is dependent on them. That's when I feel like, I really don't like when people use the term the game, but I feel like that's when I feel like, as a child growing up in the hood, you learn how to respect the game. You learn to respect the game because the game is so cold that you have no choice but to respect it. And when I say that, I mean seeing your friend from middle school on the corner now hustling. You respect it because you see what that boy is dealing with, and you know that in his mind he's just trying to survive and trying to escape the teasing and the bullying for not being taken care of, trying to ease the pain of his mother not being able to be there for him, or his father not being there, or seeing his parents strung out, or coming in the house and not having your lights on, not having food in the refrigerator. That's how you learn how to respect the game, because at this point in time, the game is taking care of this boy. So, dealing with that, you know, we would go to school, and those boys that did hustle and stuff like that, they took on a different type of persona. They were no longer kids. I remember them kind of coming to school. They would get smart with the teacher, and they was kind of like grown men at this point in time. You know, in their mind and what they were doing when they got out of school, they were being grown. So, you know, it just was a lot. It just was a lot. And for the girls, it was bad too. A lot of girls was dealing with dysfunction in their homes, being touched inappropriately by family members, people just not noticing or paying attention, you know, to them, dealing with the neglect, you know. So it was rough. It was rough. So moving forward, the hood started to become more and more dangerous. Like, you couldn't just walk to the store anymore and just grab something. You had to really be aware, because people's minds was messed up. You know, they were not the same anymore. They were on drugs, so they would steal, they would beat you up, they would rob you for whatever you got. I remember having friends tell me how their mothers allowed for their uncle or somebody to stay with them, and when they woke up, stuff was gone. TVs was gone, their school shoes was gone, money was gone. You know, like, they didn't care. Like, they would come and rob their whole family. And it was rough, and it was real. You know, it was rough and it was real, and it was hard for me to hear those type of things. And in my own life, I would see my family members, you know, outside being strung out, you know. And I remember the dynamic of everything started to change. So in Baltimore, we have a place called Lexington Market. I think back in the day it was like an open market where people actually had like horse and buggy, and they would come and bring like their produce from like farms and stuff like that, and they would sell it. You can come and buy like meat, household products, already cooked food and stuff like that. By the time, of course, you know, I was older, it was a closing place, venue, but it was also like different stalls where you could buy different stuff. It was a cool place. Like, you can go down there, you could buy anything from fried chicken wings to chitlins, which I don't eat. I did eat back then. Ew. Chitlins to homemade candy to cookies to fresh fruit, fresh fish. Like, you could buy anything. In the middle of Lexington Market, people used to play live music like on the weekends, and people would come down and dance and have a good time. In Lexington Market, they did have a stand that sold like beer. Like, you could buy like cups of beer, and people would drink the beer, you know, and have a good time. So, you know, this was just like a place for a lot of people to gather. It was like a real big historical place in downtown Baltimore. So I remember, like, in elementary school, I would go there. Upstairs, they had an area where you could sit down and you could eat. So as I started getting older, we would go to Lexington Market, and I realized the dynamic of Lexington Market started to change. Lexington Market was in the heart of downtown Baltimore, so we had like a lot of shops and stuff you could walk to. You could take the bus, you know, the metro. Everything kind of went to the center of the city, so it was easy to get there if you didn't have a driver's license. So what I started to notice is that Lexington Market was filled with junkies, you know, people on drugs. We would go upstairs, we would sit down. Now, when I was younger, like I said before, how I watched monos get replaced with crackheads. When we used to go upstairs in Lexington Market when I was younger, people used to be up there drinking, you know, probably didn't have a job. They was in there just chilling all day, loitering, you know, not really being a problem, but they had nothing else to do, so they probably would buy something small to eat and get a cup of beer and just sit up there all day and just shoot the breeze. As I started getting older, I remember me and my mother would go upstairs and we would look for a place to sit, and it would be people up there using. It would be people up there using, people up there nodding off, strung out. It just started getting really, really bad. It just started getting really bad. And I remember, like, that area downstairs where they used to play the live music and people used to dance. Man, people used to be toe up now, like just looking goofy, tore up off of drugs, dancing, looking a mess, fighting. It just started getting bad. Like, it just started getting so bad. And the next thing you know, Lexington Market was just flooded with crackheads. It looked like zombie land. It looked like zombie land. My grandmother used to go there a lot, but as I started to realize, like, more and more older people stopped really coming down there to shop and to purchase things because it was just too much negative activity going on. And it was just real sad to see. Like I said, like, this was a historical place in Baltimore. A lot of childhood memories I had there, going there, walking there with my grandmother. Like, in the front of Lexington Market, they would sell roasted peanuts. Like, the dude would be out there roasting them. You could buy fresh peanuts, and it used to just be like a lot of fun. You know, you could buy, like I said, handmade candy, cookies, cakes. Everybody would get their birthday cakes there. You could buy crafts there. People would make bracelets, shirts, cups, all different types of stuff. Excuse me, y'all. I need some water. Alright, y'all, I'm back. I don't know why when I be talking on here, I swear, I talk a lot anyway, but I feel like as soon as I cut on the camera, my voice, my throat, not my voice, my throat, my mouth be getting so dry. And I also got braces, y'all, and I haven't had them that long, so talking with the braces be a mess too. But anyway, back to the story. So I was saying that you know, Lexington Market just really, really changed. My whole world around me was pretty much changing because of the drugs and, you know, just living in the ghetto. It was just hard. It was difficult. Now, on the flip side, okay, on the flip side, it still was a lot of positive things going on. You know, I don't want to leave those things out. We did have a lot of people in the community that saw that it was a problem and really reached out to the kids. In Baltimore, we used to have bands. I don't know, they were like marching bands. I don't know if it was like a certain name for them, but we would have marching bands that you can join. Like, different neighborhoods would put together bands. They would get instruments, and the kids could get like really nice uniforms. And we would have parades. They would teach, you know, the boys how to play some instruments, trumpet, drums. The girls would learn how to be majorettes and stuff like that, and they would battle against each other. So that was always fun. Also, we had community centers. I used to go to the Boys and Girls Club, which I loved. They took us swimming 2 times a day. They taught us how to swim. We would play sports there. We had arts and crafts. They would feed us. We had to pay. I do remember that I think you got like a discount if your mother like received public services like food stamps or something like that. My mother did have to pay, but I think we received like a discount. It might have been through like Medicaid or something like that. So like that was lit. Like we used to have fun at the Boys and Girls Club. Like it was a safe haven for kids, just dealing with a lot of stuff we was dealing with on the streets and our home life. That was a place where you could come to really just be a kid, where you could just have fun. It also was a lot of young dudes in the community and older that were like coaches, would reach out to the young dudes in the community and put them into sports, football, basketball. We had a lot of strong leaders in the community that saw what was going on and realized that the youth needed an outlet. Actually, the main place where I grew up, Monroe and Fayette, it was a show that came on HBO called The Corner, and it was about that area where I lived. It was an actual show that came on. One of the characters in the show, I did know her. Her daughter was murdered, which was horrible. I remember her as a little girl. I was a lot younger than her, and somebody in the hood took her life, you know. And it was messed up. At the time, I really didn't understand it. I was a kid, and I think she like walked her sister to the bus stop, and I was just terrified after that, because I remember thinking in my mind, like, who would hurt a kid and why, you know? The lady whose daughter it was, she went on to be a really strong staple in the community. Like, she started like really rallying against crime and drugs, and just like really gave back to the community. I you know, admire her strength. She was a real strong woman. She worked in the community centers there, helping the youth for years and years. I don't remember exactly what happened to her, because I had moved from around that way, but I remember like still seeing her like in the papers and stuff like that. And when that show came out, I really didn't watch it, you know, but I really don't like watching shows like that, because for me it's hard to watch stuff like that, because I actually lived in it and that was my life. So I don't really like to watch it like play out on TV, because it's not real entertainment to me, because I was in the middle of the mess. So, but yeah, I know those shows are really popular and stuff, but you know, that's where I grew up. I grew up on Monroe and Fayette, which was, you know, I had a lot of fun around that way, you know, a lot of friends that I made, but it also was a lot of pain. You know, I saw a lot of things that children shouldn't see growing up there. And like I said, when I hear stereotypes and people say certain things about people that grew up in the hood, it really pisses me off, because I'm just like, yo, like, you have no idea. Like, if you're not from there, you have no idea of the traumas. You have no idea of the fear. You have no idea of the pain. You have no idea of the sadness. And that's another thing that I wanted to talk about. When I was in middle school, yo, like, I had classmates that were literally losing their lives in the streets, like, you know, to gun violence, to all types of things, you know, all types of things, like problems at home, abuse. Like, it was rough, y'all. It was rough. And I think that's something that people really need to take into consideration when they do watch certain shows, you know, that glamorize hood life. You know, I just kind of be like, man, like, hood life is not what you think it is. Like, it's not glamorous at all. Like, I know people watch shows like Power, and I remember The Wire was out. Like I said, I never watched any of these shows, because to me, I feel like, yo, like, I went through this in real life and nothing about it was glamorous. So when they show the glamorous side of it, I'm just like, that's not real, because it's people that's really suffering because of this. I do feel like a lot of people that grew up in the hood, lives were pretty much stolen from them, because you never know what you could have been if you had the right type of guidance, if you had both of your parents in your home, if you didn't have to deal with family members that, you know, suffer from drug abuse, if you weren't neglected, if you didn't have to sell drugs. Like, you know, you don't know what your life could have been, you know, but because you had all these obstacles and things kind of thrown at you from pretty much from birth, like you didn't really have a choice when you're born into these areas or whatever, you don't know what your life could have been, you know. I feel like, you know, most of us make choices based on our environment and our upbringing. It just is what it is. But I'm about to end this video. I'm going to do a part 3 talking about growing up in the hood when I was in high school, and just how things evolved in the ghetto with, you know, crime and drugs and stuff like that. Like I always say, if you enjoyed this video, hit a like. Don't forget to subscribe and share this video. Also comment below. Let's get the conversation popping. If you grew up in the hood, or you have questions about growing up in the ghetto, or questions about Baltimore, leave a comment below and we can get the conversation popping. If you didn't enjoy this video, you can tell me that too in the comments, you know. I can do better on part 3. But I appreciate you tuning in. If you was rocking with me to the end of this video, thank you so much. And hopefully I won't take a long time to put up part 3. But everybody, you know, have a blessed day, and I'll see you soon. All right, y'all.